How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to On the Ball. Welcome back to another transfer update and some big names to talk about, starting off with Sadio Mane of Bayern Munich. Romano says that Sadio Mane to Al Nassr. Here we go. Deal in place between the two clubs. Bayern have accepted the verbal proposal after advanced talks yesterday. Paperwork to be checked on player side, and then medical will be booked. Deal will be done. Fofana, Brozovic, Telles, and now Mane for Al Nassr, building up quite some team there in Saudi Arabia. I think the deal is around the £30 million pound mark or euro mark, and another great deal for the Saudis.
So they're getting their money back for Mane, which they spent a year ago. Probably going to invest that money in the Kane transfer. I think they've got Sane, they've got Coman, they've got Gnabry, so they don't really need him in the wide areas. I think it's a good move for them. In terms of Mane, it's a shame that he's going over to Al Nassr. But look, to be honest, we keep saying it's a shame. They're starting to build a serious league there. If every team is going to have the quality that is that they're showing at the moment, in terms of every team,
two or three teams at the moment.
If it keeps building though in this way, then all of a sudden it is going to be a league to watch out for. But look, it is a shame that he's still only 31, and I believe, wasn't so long ago he was one of the best players in Europe. Has kind of declined a bit, but look, I'm sure he's getting very well compensated. It's probably a good move for him. So I think it works out for all parties. I think it's good for Bayern to get their money back.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sadio Mane is going out to Saudi Arabia, and another player who could be, which I don't believe he will be, but could be, and that is Victor Osimhen of Napoli, an absolute star of Serie A last season. Al-Hilal are positioning themselves to make a huge move for Napoli and Nigeria star Victor Osimhen, and that comes from L'Equipe. So no real talks of it just yet, but maybe this is just the start of it.
That would be a serious move as well. Not quite on the Mbappe level, but close to it. Osimhen, one of the most informed strikers in Europe after last season, absolutely blitzing his way to a Serie A Golden Boot and a Serie A title. What a season he had. And if he was in his prime of his career, just after he's had an explosive season, move over to Saudi Arabia, that would be a big indication of players actually in their prime at the top of the European game, now also moving over to Saudi Arabia. He's probably going to command... Napoli are probably going to command 200 million, but no one else in Europe is going to pay it. And if they're going to stump up the cash, I can see Napoli potentially accepting it. Yeah,
it all depends on the player's side, though, doesn't it? If he wants to go out to Saudi Arabia at this stage of his career, or he wants to stay in Serie A, or potentially go elsewhere. But I mean, can you see someone of Victor Osimhen of that age, of that kind of form, going out to Saudi?
I mean, money talks, man. Money talks, and if they offer him even a quarter of what they're offering Mbappe, then that might be something he would consider. Because if they're offering him 1 million, 2 million a week, or whatever it is, money talks. So that kind of money is very difficult to turn down, even though you've just won a Serie A.
Yeah. Look, if he does go out there, I think this is the first transfer, in my opinion, where you really start to worry about the landscape of football in Europe, because Osimhen is literally one of the most informed and best players in Europe right now. He's one of the most sought after players. Anyone probably in European football would take him off Napoli's hands if they could. And most of the European clubs, if not all of them, are being priced out of a move. So if he goes out to Saudi, that signals danger for me.
In a weird way, it could even be more significant than Mbappe, because Mbappe apparently is only going to be a 1-year loan, and is not going to be permanent. If he actually moves permanently, that could even change the landscape even more than an Mbappe transfer.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's move on and let's talk about Callum HudsonAdoi. Romano saying that Fulham have made a verbal offer to Chelsea of around £4 million. The Blues want closer to £8 million, and the winger talks are at an advanced stage with Fulham, and there is confidence a deal can be struck soon. Fulham are optimistic that the Callum HudsonAdoi deal will get done in the next few days as personal terms are agreed. It just is taking the negotiations between the club, as Marco Silva's decision to stay was very key for Callum HudsonAdoi to accept the personal terms.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting move because he didn't have a good time at Leverkusen. He's one who's got so much potential, we know that, but it's been a long time now when we talk about potential. He's now in his, 22, 23 years of age. It's about time he starts actually showing it on the pitch, and he just hasn't done that. Whether Marco Silva could be the manager to get the best out of him. You saw what he's been doing with Willian last season. He did really well with him. And to be fair, some of the other wide players as well he's done quite a good job with. So maybe it could be a good move for him, and maybe this could be the time in a Premier League team playing week in, week out to get the best out of him. I still believe there's a very good player there. Just something hasn't quite clicked with him yet.
Yeah, look, I think he was one of the most sought-after academy players for Chelsea not so long ago. You've heard people like Reece James's dad, who's been very involved in the Chelsea academy, saying he's the biggest talent that Chelsea have produced in recent years. So I think if he can go to a club, not far from home, he won't need to uproot his family and uproot his house or anything like that to move to Fulham. If he can keep everything the same and go to Fulham and play week in, week out and really stamp his authority in that team and get some sort of consistency in his game and consistency in his life, I think that it'll be a really good move for him. And Marco Silva's probably a really good manager to really get that out of him. So I think this is a really good deal all round, to be honest.
Especially at that price.
Yeah.
Enough,
8 million.
Basically giving him away.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not accepting 4 million, but 8 million is, it's not too much difference. I guess it is double the price though. But I think when you're looking at the price, the advantages definitely outweigh the disadvantages. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. Moving on, another big player potentially going out to Saudi, and that is Marco Verratti of PSG. Romano saying that Verratti has reached personal terms agreement with Al-Hilal over a 3-year contract for Marco Verratti, and now it just leaves for the Saudi club to agree a fee with PSG. So it looks as though Verratti has given the green light for the clubs to start agreeing a transfer fee.
Yeah, there's another player in terms of his whole career. Like, I love Verratti. I think he's like a really quality player. I always feel like he could have pushed his career on a bit more. Like, I don't know if he ever reached his full potential as much as he became a very good player. I think this is a player who could have played week in, week out for Barcelona or some of the top clubs, and he never quite hit that consistency to buy that big move. There are a lot of rumours he was going to get a big move this summer, but it seems as though if he goes to Saudi, I don't see him going to another team in Europe again. I think that's probably going to be his move. And I do think they'll probably agree a deal. There are rumours that Saudi club have bid 30 million and PSG want 80 million. They'll probably find a compromise. And I think at 30 years of age, I think PSG will probably take that kind of money, although do they really need it? But anyway, they'll probably take the money and invest it in a central midfielder who's more up and coming rather than a 30-year-old Marco Verratti, who I believe is still a quality player. But I don't know. It's just another what if for me with Marco Verratti. I feel like he didn't quite hit what he could have done in his career.
Yeah, it's a shame, to be honest, because like you, I very much rate him, and I think he's been an absolutely brilliant player. But I felt like he was just hamstrung staying at PSG for so long. But this is just another long line of brilliant talent going out to Saudi Arabia. Next up, let's talk about Moises Caicedo. And no, we're not talking about Saudi Arabia this time. This is a move within the Premier League, as Romano says that Chelsea's new offer for Moises Caicedo in the last 24 hours was immediately rejected by Brighton, and it was worth £80 million, but negotiations are ongoing. David Ornstein also confirmed that and says that Chelsea's fourth Moises Caicedo proposal to be turned down by Brighton was 75 million plus 5 million in add-ons. Brighton do not want to sell despite midfielders' wish to go. Chelsea now are also considering alternative options.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big offer, I have to say. 75 million. I mean, it's not that big compared to what they offered before, because it's only a 5 million increase, I guess, plus the add-ons. But it's a giant offer for someone like Moises Caicedo, who's only really done it for a year for Brighton. So I would be, if I was Chelsea, I'd move on, to be honest. I would.
And if I'm Brighton, I'm accepting it.
If I'm Brighton, I'm accepting it. If I'm Chelsea, I'm moving on. So from that point of view, I can see. I would be surprised if this deal doesn't get done, like a price near to that. Surely it can't take too much for Brighton to accept it. But if Brighton are rejecting that kind of offer, then maybe they are serious about really not wanting to sell him.
Well, it's interesting because I was watching Roberto De Zerbi speak, and he said that obviously he doesn't want Caicedo to go. He's a star player. But if he does go, he wants the chairman to invest in another really big central midfielder for them. And the interviewer asked him, have you got anyone lined up? And he's like, yes, but I'm not telling you who it is.
Yeah, of course. And they have.
So they've got someone lined up already, which tells me that this deal will get done probably.
But Brighton always have players lined up. They're known for they've got apparently 3 players in each position who could be an alternative to any of their players in the first
That is what you
team.
call scouting.
So that's everyone should be doing that. But Brighton seem to be the industry standard at the moment for how you're replacing players. So I do think this deal gets done, but if I was Chelsea, I would walk away. I don't see the need to spend 90 million or whatever it is they're going to demand for him.
Yeah. Let's move on. Let's talk about Romeo Lavia. And this is a name that Chelsea are considering in terms of if Caicedo does not work out. The Athletic say that Chelsea consider making a move for Southampton's 19-year-old midfielder Romeo Lavia. And Romano has said the same as well. So is he a good alternative option for Caicedo?
I think so. And I think where Chelsea are at the moment, different to like Liverpool, we know Chelsea, there's not much expectations for them next season, especially when it comes to like what they're fighting for. They're just maybe expected to be in a top 4 battle rather than like a title race or anything like that. So I think bringing someone like Lavia, who yes is young but can build with a young team with Pochettino, who is going to want his players to do exactly what he says and is without too much expectation on them. I think he would probably be half the price of someone like Caicedo. And I think there's not too much difference in like out quality, although Caicedo's a bit ahead of him at the moment. I think Lavia's got similar quality to him. So if I was Chelsea, I think it makes sense to go for Lavia right now for half the price in Caicedo.
Yeah, it's literally half the price. I mean, Caicedo has shown more in the Premier League as of up till now. But, I mean, whenever I watch Lavia play, I can't help but be impressed. Like I said a couple of videos ago, he's been a shining light in that Southampton team that got relegated last season. And I think he's got a massive future ahead of him, along with a lot of the players in that Chelsea squad. You know, a lot of them are like kind of untapped potential, which you don't really know which way it's going to go, but they've got a very high ceiling. And I think Lavia will fit into that group really well, to be honest.
And I think if they sign a Lavia, they can afford him a bit of time and patience to kind of bed into the team. Whereas, you're signing Caicedo for 100 million, all of a sudden the expectations could be very high on someone like him. Whereas I know even though he's going to be 50 million or so for Lavia, I still think he'll be afforded a bit more patience. And I think that's what's needed.
Yeah. And last but not least, let's talk about Ousmane Dembele. There's been a development in recent hours for him, as Romano says that PSG have started contacts to potentially activate Dembele's release clause of 50 million euros. But that is only until July the 31st, as after that it goes up to 100 million euros. Nothing done as of now, and Dembele's position will be crucial, and Barcelona are offering him a new deal. So a bit of a fight on to keep Ousmane Dembele for Barca.
Yeah, it was an interesting one because 2 years ago, Barca wanted rid of Dembele, but he's really got over those injury issues and he started to really perform consistently. And last season, I thought he was brilliant. For the last 18 months already, he's been brilliant. He's been playing regularly for France as well in their national team. He's really starting to live up to his potential, Ousmane Dembele. And I think he's got world-class potential. And I think he's really starting to live up to that now. So I think PSG are very smart if they just go hammer and tong for this, because I think this would be a really, really clever signing. And for 50 million, I think it's a no-brainer. Barcelona are going to fight tooth and nail to keep him. And I think he's become a big part of their attack. So it's going to be interesting if this one plays out. I'm surprised no one else has really activated that release clause before PSG have done now. I don't know why they've waited until 28th of July.
Yeah, but when you look at it, I mean, it is all going to rely on the stance of Ousmane Dembele, because he's had chances to leave Barcelona before. He's never wanted to leave. I think he has a home there in Spain, and he very much likes the life there in Barcelona and what have you. So, I mean, it all very much relies on what Ousmane Dembele wants to do, and I got a feeling he's going to stay at Barcelona.
Well, he is French, so maybe he might like the thought of going back to his home country. But it's right. I think he's having a good time at Barcelona. There's probably no reason to kind of mix things up unless PSG are offering a bigger wage packet, which is probably a possibility.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. That is the transfer update for today. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts regarding all of the transfer rumours from today, and we'll see you next time.